It had been a few weeks since Arshad had confessed his feelings to Nazia, and the weight of that rejection still hung heavy in his chest. Despite her kind words and apologies, the distance between them had only grown. Arshad had tried to move on, to focus on his studies, to immerse himself in his work. But every time he saw Nazia with her friends, laughing, carefree, and perfectly happy without him, the knot in his stomach would tighten. His friends had noticed the change in him. He was quieter, more withdrawn, and less engaged in the conversations that used to keep him going. The old Arshad, the one who had always been positive and hardworking, seemed like a distant memory. Instead, a new, uncertain version of himself had taken his place. One afternoon, after another lonely day on campus, Arshad sat by the lake near the university grounds. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the water, and the cool breeze felt soothing against his skin. He needed a moment to breathe, to think, and to clear his head. The world around him was so peaceful, yet he felt like a storm was brewing inside. He pulled out his phone and stared at Nazia's contact, wondering if it was worth reaching out again. But deep down, he knew the answer. He had to stop thinking about her, stop hoping that one day she would see him the way he saw her. It wasn't healthy to keep waiting for something that was never going to happen. The sound of footsteps interrupted his thoughts, and he looked up to find his friend, Sarah, walking toward him. She had been a constant support for Arshad through his struggles, even though he often kept his emotions bottled up. "Hey," Sarah said softly as she sat down next to him. "You've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" Arshad let out a sigh. "I don't know, Sarah. I keep thinking about her, about Nazia, but I know it's not going anywhere." Sarah nodded, understanding his pain. "You can't keep holding on to something that isn't meant to be, Arshad. You're only hurting yourself." "I know," he muttered. "But how do I let go of something that felt so real? I can't just forget everything we had. It's not that simple." "It never is," Sarah replied. "But you have to focus on yourself now. You have so much potential, so much to offer. Don't let one person's actions define you." Arshad glanced at Sarah, her words cutting through the fog in his mind. Maybe she was right. Maybe it was time for him to stop letting his feelings for Nazia control his life. Maybe it was time to find his own path, to be the person he wanted to be, without relying on anyone else to validate him. "I think you're right," Arshad said after a long pause. "I can't keep waiting for something that's never going to happen. I have to focus on my own future, my own goals." Sarah smiled warmly. "That's the spirit, Arshad. You deserve happiness too." Arshad sat back and looked out at the lake. For the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of clarity. It wasn't going to be easy, but he knew he had to move forward. He had spent so much time focusing on Nazia and his feelings for her that he had neglected his own growth, his own dreams. As he walked back to his dorm later that evening, his mind was clearer. He didn't have all the answers yet, but he knew one thing. He was ready to stop being defined by someone else's feelings. It was time for Arshad to start living for himself.